Healthcare workers are at risk. Learning objectives. About this course. Healthcare workers are at risk for exposure to bloodborne pathogens. This course discusses how pathogens are spread. It also discusses the use of standard precautions and the importance of infection control. The goal of this course is to educate administrators and general staff in all healthcare settings on standard precautions. Learning objectives. After taking this course, you should be able to define the common modes of transmission of pathogens, explain the importance of infection control, discuss the recommendations for respiratory hygiene and cough etiquette, identify at least 3 bloodborne pathogens. Section 2. Transmission of pathogens. Meet Kyle. Kyle works at Southwinds in the Food Services Department. Today, during lunch, Kyle was working in the dining room. In addition to making sure that everyone had what they needed, Kyle was taking care of the garbage and clearing tables. Noticing that the garbage was full, Kyle put on a pair of gloves. He put his hand on the top of the garbage and pushed down to make room. "I'll take the garbage out in a bit," he thought. "Lunch is almost over." Kyle felt a sharp pain in the palm of his hand. He pulled his hand out and saw that he was bleeding. Taking a closer look at the garbage on top, Kyle could see the tip of a needle poking up. Reaching into the garbage, he picked up the needle. Kyle sometimes helped his uncle with his insulin injections and recognized the needle as an insulin syringe. Kyle recalled occasionally seeing nurses administering insulin in the dining room before, though he didn't think they were supposed to. "I'm not sure what to do," Kyle thought. "I know it's dangerous to get poked by a dirty needle, but I have to finish my shift and everything's probably okay. It's just an insulin needle." What do you think? What steps do you think Kyle should take? Remove his gloves and wash his hands. Notify a supervisor about the incident. Put the needle back into the garbage. Clock out of work and go home. Kyle should immediately remove his gloves and wash his hands. Kyle should immediately notify a supervisor about the injury. What would you do if this happened to you? When you are exposed to someone else's blood or body fluids, there are several important steps to take. These steps protect you and the other people that your organization provides care for. Definition of standard precautions. In 1992, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, created standards to protect against the health risks associated with exposure to bloodborne pathogens and other potentially infectious materials. The bloodborne pathogen rule created measures to protect workers against health hazards related to bloodborne pathogens. It is one of the most important work safety regulations for healthcare staff. The bloodborne pathogen rule and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's standard precautions work together to reduce the threat of exposure to bloodborne pathogens and other potentially infectious materials. Standard precautions are required infection control practices. They are used to prevent the spread of diseases that can be acquired through contact with blood, body fluids such as saliva, non-intact skin such as a rash, mucous membranes such as the eyes or nose. Standard precautions should be used at all times during care for every person. They are the basic level of precautions. They treat every person as if they are potentially infectious. Following standard precautions helps protect you and the people in your care from infection and disease. Review. True or false? Standard precautions only apply to people who are showing signs of illness or infection. True. False. Standard precautions apply to everyone all the time. They treat every person as if they may be infectious. Pathogens. A pathogen is an organism that causes disease in a host. For example, if you get the flu, then you are the host. The pathogen is the virus that caused the flu. Pathogens can be found everywhere. They are on surfaces like countertops, in the soil or the air, and in blood. Pathogens include viruses such as COVID-19, influenza, and norovirus, bacteria such as Streptococcus and C. difficile, fungi such as Candida, protozoa such as Toxoplasma, worms such as Enterobiasis or pinworm. Kyle. Kyle was poked by an insulin needle in the garbage. He was injured because the needle broke his skin. He was also potentially exposed to pathogens. Standard precautions would have protected against Sharp's injuries and spreading pathogens. Bloodborne pathogens. A bloodborne pathogen is a type of pathogen that is spread specifically through contact with blood and other potentially infectious materials, or OPIMs, including blood products, body parts, semen, vaginal secretions, birth fluids, body fluids such as spinal fluid. Healthcare workers are at risk for exposure to bloodborne pathogens, including hepatitis B virus or HBV, hepatitis C virus or HCV, human immunodeficiency virus or HIV. Hepatitis B. Hepatitis B is a liver disease caused by the virus known as HBV. It is a life-threatening bloodborne pathogen. It is a major risk to employees in jobs where there is exposure to blood and OPIM. The hepatitis B virus can cause serious liver damage and death. Symptoms include jaundice, fever, nausea, abdominal pain. Hepatitis B increases the risks of developing a chronic infection, dying from cirrhosis, dying from liver cancer. The chance of becoming infected with hepatitis B from a Sharp's injury is between 6% and 30%. The good news is that hepatitis B can be prevented with a vaccination. Licensed in the U.S. in 1986, the HBV vaccine is safe and effective. It is usually given in 3 doses over a 6-month period. Although having the vaccine does not eliminate the need for standard precautions, it does provide protection from HBV if you do have an exposure. Many employers provide this immunization to their workers free of charge. Hepatitis C. Hepatitis C is a liver disease caused by the hepatitis C virus, or HCV. It is the most common chronic bloodborne infection in the U.S. Most people do not have any symptoms. They are not aware that they are infected and can infect others. They are also at risk for chronic liver disease or other HCV-related chronic diseases. Acute hepatitis C virus infection occurs 1 to 3 months after exposure and lasts up to 3 months. It is usually not diagnosed because it rarely causes symptoms. Symptoms can include jaundice, nausea, fatigue, fever, muscle aches. Less than half of the people with acute hepatitis C clear the virus from their systems. Others go on to develop chronic hepatitis C. The virus stays in the person's body and can lead to cirrhosis or liver cancer. There is no vaccination for hepatitis C. Both acute and chronic hepatitis can be treated with antiviral medications. HIV. HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. It is the virus that can lead to acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, or AIDS. Unlike some viruses, the human body is not able to get rid of HIV completely. Even with treatment, the virus remains in the bloodstream for life. This means that it can be transmitted from person to person for life. Symptoms typically appear 2 to 4 weeks after infection and may last for several weeks. Symptoms include sore throat, fever, rash, swollen lymph nodes, fatigue. The two stages of HIV are the acute stage and the chronic stage. Acute HIV infection, or stage 1, is when people are very contagious and they may have flu-like symptoms. With chronic HIV infection, or stage 2, people may not have any symptoms. However, they can still transmit the virus. Without treatment, HIV can progress to AIDS. Without treatment, the average person with AIDS lives about 1 to 2 years. With treatment, people with HIV have the same life expectancy as those who are HIV negative. Treatment for HIV consists of antiretroviral therapy. There is currently no vaccination for HIV. Scientists are working on ways to prevent HIV, including vaccination. Myths and facts. There are many myths about how HIV is spread. The fact is that HIV can be detected in several fluids and tissues of a person with HIV. However, only specific fluids from an HIV-infected person can transmit HIV. These specific fluids include blood, semen, vaginal secretions, breast milk. To transmit HIV, these fluids must come in contact with a mucous membrane or damaged tissue. Transmission can occur if the fluids are directly injected into the bloodstream, such as by sharing needles. It is more common to transmit HIV through anal or vaginal sex. It is important to know that HIV is not spread by sharing items like toilets or dishes, insects, including mosquitoes, saliva, tears, or sweat, shaking hands, closed mouth, or social kissing. Who is at risk? Kyle, the food service employee at Southwinds, was poked by a used needle that was in the garbage. Knowing what you now know about bloodborne pathogens, you know that Kyle has potentially been exposed to HIV as well as hepatitis B and C. The truth is that everyone is at risk for exposure to a bloodborne pathogen and for becoming infected. As Kyle's example shows, you do not have to be in a role that provides direct care to be at risk. An exposure may happen through needle sticks and other sharps-related injuries. It can also happen through everyday activities such as housekeeping and laundry, assisting someone with eating, maintenance and food service. Anytime you come in contact with another person's blood and body fluids, you risk exposure. Transmission. Healthcare workers can be exposed to bloodborne pathogens in 2 ways. They are exposed if they are injured by a sharp object, such as a needle. They are also exposed if the blood or OPIM touches a mucous membrane or open wound. Mucous membranes are the moist openings on a person's body, such as the mouth, eyes, nose, ears, vagina, rectum. Exposure that results from the performance of an employee's duties is called occupational exposure. Review. How are healthcare workers exposed to bloodborne pathogens and other potentially infectious materials, or OPIM? When blood splashes in the eyes and nose. When the skin is punctured by a used needle. When blood comes in contact with intact skin. When a person's hand touches your hand. Blood splashing into your eyes or nose exposes you to bloodborne pathogens. If the infected blood, or OPIM, touches a mucous membrane or open wound, it is an exposure. A puncture from a used needle exposes you to bloodborne pathogens. If the infected blood, or OPIM, touches a mucous membrane or open wound, it is an exposure. Summary. Pathogens are found in blood and body fluids. They are easily transmitted in healthcare environments. Exposure occurs through sharps injuries, and when pathogens come in contact with mucous membranes or open wounds. Standard precautions protect against exposure to bloodborne pathogens and OPIM. All healthcare workers are at risk for exposure to hepatitis B and C, as well as HIV. Section 3. Protecting against exposure.